So sorry if there's been a little bit of breakup there, folks. There's always a little bit of testing times, some picture and internet problems, but I'm sure the tech guys are all over it. And we've got some birds that just landed in the tree. It sounded like a roller. And those being your crowned cranes. I haven't spotted the secretary bird just yet. I'm pretty sure eventually we will find him. And I'm going to, sorry, my face is right in the sun. I'm going to start up again. We're going to head down still towards the river. Let's see if we can get that baby hippo to get that ticked off. And then the secretary bird. And who knows, maybe we'll find some male lions in between. Maybe we'll even see some black rhino and leopard. Who knows? That's the beauty of it, isn't it? We never know what's going to be around the next corner. And maybe in this forest here, we might see something interesting. We've got to just keep our eyes peeled and keep moving around positively. And it's all going to show itself as it wants to. Don't forget to send your questions and your comments, folks. Love for you to be involved. We haven't found any lions of yet, but yesterday we worked very hard to find them eventually. So this morning, hoping to find them a little bit quicker, but beggars can't be choosers and we can't complain. Just keep on trying. What are these impala watching? Oh, that's a nice little spot. I think you can have a look at this herd of impala. Now, I know we see lots of impala at Djuma and the Sabi sands, but we don't see as many of them or as frequently here in the Mara. Maybe it's just because I'm seeing all the other different species so much that I'm almost neglecting them. But one thing I can say is that the horns on the males here are absolutely huge. I've never seen such big impala horns in my entire life, and I've seen a lot of impala. And have a look at that guy. Those horns, the animal per se doesn't seem to be that much bigger. They do have rather large necks, and that would be as a result of those big horns that they're carrying around all the time. And they then go and fight with bushes and do spar a little bit with each other, but that neck is very thick and very big horns. And Brandon, you're wondering why don't we see so many leopards or many leopards in the Mara? Well, there are leopard here, Brandon, but it is it's a lot down to the kind of habitat that there is here. I would imagine that in terms of leopard habitat, I would say that there's probably quite a lot of leopard along the escarpment, and then probably also along the riverine vegetation as well. And in these thickets, they're not particularly a grassland species because they are ambush hunters. They do like to lie up in trees or in caves, in rocky areas. So those are the kind of places that you will find leopard. And that's the area that we have been finding them in the Mara. I haven't found any yet, but maybe we'll get lucky sometime soon. In the meantime, let's head over to Scott, who's got a lovely wading bird for you.
We do have one of the most lovely wading birds, a saddle-billed stork, and I hope Rolf manages to work out what exactly those impala are all staring at. Now, this lady has been looking for breakfast. We've been spending a couple of minutes with her. She's not been very, very active, but now things seem to be heating up. Oh! Perfect timing. What has she got there? Send zoom into the end of her beak, please. It's a frog. Can you believe it? Oh, she nearly lost it. I'm not too sure what kind of a frog it is. It looks like it could be a platana, but hard to be certain. Oh, and just like that, it's gone. Well done. Just as I was telling everyone that you weren't looking too serious this morning, you sniped in with incredible speed and skill. And wasn't that wonderful? She appears to be disrupt any frogs that are hiding on the base of this little waterhole. Whereas the other one she caught there, she kind of sniped in on it. So different ways of going about finding prey in these murky, muddy wallows. I find it miraculous that they can even catch anything, because they certainly a lot of the time can't actually see the prey, maybe the area where it's moving. What was that? Is that a terrapin in the background? Must be. You can see one terrapin's head there, but I'm not sure what that larger thing that was moving about was. Probably also a terrapin. Just its shell, I'm guessing. Something's happening back there, though. She doesn't seem too concerned, so obviously not prey for her. Now, I do know it's a female because it's got yellow eyes. And the males will have black eyes and two small yellow wattles dangling off the base of their beak, where their kind of beak meets their chin. And ordinarily you would see a pair of these most often, but who knows, maybe the male is incubating eggs on a nest somewhere, because 9 times out of 10 they are together. I think Tristan's trying to call me on the radio, so I'm just going to get back to him quickly. Go ahead. From Shibam, Philemon's Cut Line, down to Treehouse Dam, and then the next tracks I had were cutting south from Weaver's Nest over Gowrie Main. Sounds like Tristan's also found some leopard tracks. Yeah, it was hard to tell when I was there. It was still dark, so they did look fresh though. Seems like Tristan's trying to piece together a puzzle here, and he's found some tracks further north of where I found Shadow's tracks earlier. Okay, copy, good luck. And it seems like it could be another leopard because the tracks appear to be on top of the rain. So exciting prospects there for Tristan. David and Napa, you'd like to know if that kind of little yellow saddle, which gives them their name, saddle-billed stork, gives them any kind, is it there for any reason or purpose? And no, not that I know of. It's just an aesthetic development, and there's no specific reason, in my opinion, why the beak is red, black, and then red, and nor is there a useful reason for having that big yellow saddle. It's merely decorative, and I guess some creatures were lucky when they were designed in terms of beauty. They don't necessarily play any major role, in my opinion, these bright colors. But the males also have that. So the only difference between the males and the females, like I said, is that the males have black eyes and small yellow wattles below the chin. Very good. Well, why don't you guys go and get an update from Tristan as he investigates what looked to be a fresh set of leopard tracks.
Well, they do look to be fairly fresh. There's not too much in the way of rain on top. They're also quite dark in coloration, which is normally the case when a leopard is stepped after the rain, kind of breaks the road surface and leaves a little bit of a sort of darker track. It's a weird thing, but it does do that. But they are, for a female leopard, you can see that they are perfect leopard tracks. If you want tracks for your track book that any of you keep, that is about as good a leopard track as you can ever get. They are nice and defined and very, very kind of clear. And I'll show you why they're a leopard track. I just wanted to jump out quickly. But Essentially, you've got 3 lobes on these, and it may be actually be easier on this one here, Ferg, to show you the 3 lobes. But at the back of this particular track here, if we just kind of scrape there in that area, you'll see that there is a lobe that comes out at the back here, and then it comes in a little bit, out, and then around like that, and then you've got these toes over here. Now, interestingly enough, this soil at the moment is very, very, very sort of soft, and you can go quite deep into it, but yet you still don't see a presence of any claws. Sometimes when the soil is very, very soft, and like those tracks just up in front, you can sometimes just see a faint claw coming through, but on these ones you don't. And the other thing is, now that I'm looking at them very, very closely, there is a slight little bit of pitting of rain on top, but not much at all. And you can see where I drew my little circle around this track. Look at how dark that soil is, and it seems very similar to this. It is also, you can see that the soft edges means that it's from early hours of this morning, or maybe even in the last, I would say, 2-3 hours. So hopefully we'll be able to try and find this leopard. I'm bit hesitant. I think it might be the same tracks that Scotty found earlier that went southwards and towards Treehouse. They are heading in a sort of western direction. It's possible they have it in that way. Fergus, let's get onto these tracks and pay attention and see if we can find ourselves another spotted cat. I wonder who this is, though, because we're on Impala Plains. It could, of course, be Shadow. This is Shadow's territory and Shadow's area, but we also have all of these sort of wild card female leopards at the moment. So we have Ingrid Dam, young female, who apparently has got a new name, which I have yet to really hear about. Seems it was decided by the rest of the rangers in this area without really informing anybody on this side of the world, but apparently she's known as the Shadulu female. Now I'll try and confirm at some stage today as to whether that's true or not. So we'll just see. I mean, it could be her, it could be, you never know, it could even be somebody like Tiani that's just exploring. My guess, though, is that it is Shadow, so we'll try and follow, and if it is the same tracks that Scotty had, we'll know very quickly, because if they cross Zoe's road and start heading towards Philemon's, then we know for sure that this is the same leopard that is crossed out. But I'm surprised that it's moved as quickly as it did. Scotty must have been really quite close behind it if it is the same individual. Right, while I follow these tracks and move along and see if I can in some way get some luck with them, let's go back across to Ralph, who's meandering the beautiful plains of East Africa.
Yes, and welcome back, everybody. We're still just driving around here up in the Masai Mara, in the Mara Triangle, and this is one of the little roads that I haven't been on yet, so you can discover it with me. It's on the other side of the marsh, right next to the river, and we're running along the area. It's nice because there's a little bit of a swampy grassland on our right hand side, and to the left it's quite foresty. We've got a lot of the croton or feverberry thickets, and the odd apple leaf with jackalberries. Earlier the baboons were feeding on their fruit. We did see them just briefly as they all scuttled off while we were driving through the forest. And up ahead we've got a nice big grouping of elephant. So there hasn't been a morning of predators per se, but we have been going through the species. We did see a number of hyena, and it's fascinating to see how many elephants there are out in the open here as well. I'm going to stop in a minute and we just have a quick scan over this lovely sight that stands in front of us. Archie, if we can just show all those elephant that we have off to our right, and they're all moving into the marsh to come do a little bit of grazing. A lovely scene that, once again with the escarpment in the background. We live somewhere up there, and these elephant moving now through the plains, getting their daily intake of vegetable protein. And I wonder where the lions are hiding. It's It's amazing how they disappear in this long grass. Sometimes giving us a real run around. But we can spot the elephants, and always good to see them. And you can't always have everything happening all at once on every game drive. Sometimes you need these calm, quiet mornings just to make you realize that when it does all happen at once, so, you know, when you're finding 3-4 prides within half an hour or 45 minutes, well, those are the days you really appreciate it. But it can really seem like sometimes that the animals have gone and hidden themselves and they don't want to be seen, but we've got still a vast array of species walking around, showing themselves, so lots to see, lots to talk about. What I'm interested in is getting back down to the river at some stage, and still before the end of this drive I'd like to get that secretary bird and a little baby hippo, which was requested early on. So I don't think I've been down this road, and I'm getting towards the end of the roads that I have not driven on this side, on the Mara Triangle. Okay, so while I'm driving along this little 2-track, let's head back to Tristan, who's also got a couple of tracks that he'd like to compare for you.
Indeed, so I was showing you the female leopard track, which is that same track that is pointing to the left of the screen, but you'll see that there is another track to the right, and it's not every day that we get these two tracks together and kind of in the same place, and I can actually show you the differences very, very clearly between them. So one is a female leopard, the other is a male lion that is going the opposite direction to the female leopard, and you can see how much bigger the male lion's track is than the female leopard. So if I put my hand here, there's the female leopard. You can see it's about the sort of length of my pinky finger is about how long it is, whereas the male lion track is pretty much the size of my hand. So here is the top sort of toe section. It then comes down, and the back of the pad is all the way to there. So that whole area over there is a male lion footprint. This little area over here is a female leopard. So you can see a male lion is way, 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 way larger. But the actual construct of the track is very similar in a lot of ways. So the male lion track has got a very similar shape to what the female leopard track has got. You'll find that they both have these 4 toes and then these 3 lobes at the back. So the male lion's lobes are here, 1, 2, and 3, and then his toes in front. Now this particular male lion is Mfumo, and the reason I know that is because Mfumo walked in this direction the other day when the other 3 were up at Sydney's dam, so we know it is for him. But it is really much, much larger. The other nice thing with this is if you have a look in terms of the difference between lion and leopard tracks, this lion track for a male has got a very angular edge to it. So if I draw with this piece of grass, it's quite nice because the soil is quite wet, so you can see there it's got quite an angled, whereas if I show you here on this female track, it's a little bit more kind of rounded on the leopard side of life. So the lions tend to have a little bit more angle to their track, and you'll find that they kind of come round and then it's quite a sharp point, whereas leopards tend to have a much more rounded point. The other thing is that this is both front foots of each animal. You can see both of them very round in their shape, so it's a nice kind of comparison between the two of them. Very cool. The other thing is you can see the freshness of each track. So this one here is almost smoothed out. Both wind and rain has hit this. The edges have become quite faint, whereas this is from this morning. You can see much clearer edges, nice compacted soil. There's no particles of soil on top of the leopard track, whereas the lion track, you can see quite a few little particles on top there. So if this lion had walked here now, and if I put my sort of fingers down, you can see I get a similar track to that, whereas that is all faint and the edges are not very contoured at all. But very cool to see. Like I say, it's not every day that we get to see the two tracks together like that. It's a very cool thing to see. Right, let's carry on with these leopard tracks and see where they go. I have a funny feeling that they are the same tracks that Scotty was following, and I'm still sure it must be Shadow, just given the way it's going. This is a typical Shadow route to walk. She comes from Impala Plains and then comes past the Balanites, down Zoe's, and then she cuts over towards Philemon. So if they cut over from here, then I know straight away that these are the same ones Scott had earlier this morning. Very cool to see though. Always nice to get tracks. I love following leopard tracks. It's one of my favorite things to do, is to pick up on a nice set of tracks and follow them. And like I say, I mean, Scott must have been right behind them, because these tracks look really good. I've been looking at them and they are nice and crisp and clear. You never know, maybe it's a different leopard, like I say, and that these are slightly fresher. It also looks like there's more than one leopard that's walking down this road. So if you look, although I suppose the gate is right, but this is actually quite nice. It is actually just the one leopard. I thought for a second that there was two, but if we look in front of us, you'll see where the left feet go and where the right feet go. So you can actually see the width of the hips of that leopard. So left on the foot, right foot, left foot, right foot, and the actual sort of width of the gate. So these are really great tracks to have a look at. And this is the nice thing about rain, is that you do get these very defined tracks and very clear tracks. So, Alison, you're asking how do we tell the difference between a big male leopard, let's say, and a male lion? Still size. The male lion's foot is just so much bigger than a big male leopard. So a big male leopard would be closer to something like a lioness. Even then, the lioness's foot would still be bigger than that of a leopard's. A leopard just doesn't have the same size. If it was cubs, then you would say, okay, let's hypothetically put it that you found a track that looks very much like a leopard track. If it was a lion, there would be a few more, because it would either be walking with the females, or it's going to be in a cub set where there's going to be at least 3 or 4 different kind of tracks there together. There goes a black-bellied bustard or red-crested Koran. I couldn't see which one as it busted away from us, or kind of flew away from us, but isn't that beautiful? And then there it goes, disappearing. Right, well, I'm going to follow these tracks a little further while I'm busy with these. I believe Ralph has had a bit of success, and he's tracked down a tawny cat of his own.
Yes, so everybody, the search has been successful. We've found ourselves a nice little young male lion here. He's looking out over the plain. I don't think he's quite in the hunting mode. He is, however, looking out. It would be interesting to see if there were some warthogs walking nearby, what he would do. I think with his head up like that and him looking out, he definitely would have a go. I think as we've been driving along, I've also been hearing some baboon alarm calling in the forest. So I'm going to just wait here a little bit and see if they continue with that. There might be something sinister like a leopard or a caracal walking around in the thickets, in the thick brush, and that the baboons have spotted. But we'll sit here a little bit longer with this male lion. I don't know what group of lions he's from. He might have been ousted, and now he's actually a nomad. It would be interesting to see. He's still in the very early stages of his main progression. It's not fully developed just yet. It looks like he's quite wet, like he might have been lying in a bit of a wet patch. Now it's dried and almost stuck to his skin. But nice that we've had a goal this morning and we have now achieved it. But I want to try and find a hippo and a secretary bird as well. Brandon, you're asking a very interesting question. How far do male lions have to travel in order for them to take on a new territory? Well, that all depends on the area where they are able to move through. Obviously, if they come into contact with humans, there's going to be problems. But generally, they can be quite nomadic and they can move hundreds of miles if allowed to do so, and if they are pressed by dominant males, because they will be sort of walking through different territories as they go along, and they can get chased through each. So it can be quite a tough time for them. They can be literally just chased around and kept on their toes the entire time. So that's the reality of being a young male lion. You either need to become very strong, very fast on your own, or you need to join up with some other males of a similar age and get some assistance in that regard. But still, you're going to have to grow up really fast, and then attempt to take on a pride, which then once is achieved, you have the females then supporting you in terms of getting food. So once you get a territory as a male lion, you're really in the pound seats, because that's when you're getting all the support from the size pride which you were able to dominate or be able to take on a territory with the pride in it that is going to supply you with good fresh meat on a regular basis and keep your energy levels very high. And so each team is only as good as the sum of its parts, and whoever's the weakest individual, is going to be then the level of the group. Now, please, everybody, there's a lovely picture there, and I would really like for you to be sending your comments and your questions on the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter and the YouTube Wild Chat. Please send them through. We'd love for you to be involved in our little sighting here with this young male lion looking out over the Mara Triangle, all the way up in Kenya, 1 degree south of the equator. Now, we've just got a comment from Lorne saying that this is her second month with Safari Live and there's no end in sight. Well, thank you, Lorne. We hope to keep it exciting for you, and we'll do our best to keep it interesting, exciting, and 100% live. So we never know what we are going to see, and that's the beauty of it. It's not a zoo. It's not captive animals. These animals are completely wild. They move where they want, and they are exhibiting all their absolute natural behavior. So I'm hoping that this youngster is part of a pride, or he's going to be able to take one over soon. But nonetheless, he's in reasonably good condition. So if he is on his own, he's probably doing all right, chasing down warthogs and smaller animals. Being on his own, he wouldn't be able to take on massive prey just yet. A fully grown adult male can take on grown giraffe and buffalo on their own. They are extremely strong and powerful, reaching very big weights as well. So it's not only the power that they have, it's the weight that goes with them. Now, Dean, you're wondering or asking if I know how old this lion is. I would say between 2 and 3 years old. Maybe he's just hit 3. It's around that stage where they really are developing their mane. So they develop rather quickly. And I would say, yeah, if I had to hazard a final guess, I would say about 3 years old. And after that, once they hit about 4, 5, that's when they're coming into their absolute prime. And that's when they would have well-developed mane. So at the moment, he's still in that almost puberty stage or pubescent stage. Now, Christine, you've made a comment about the interesting way in which the mane develops. It is very interesting, and I'm pretty sure that it would be different for each individual. As with any animal's development, including that of humans, it develops slightly differently. Obviously, that mane does develop, but I mean, if I think about just the way that I developed in the beard department, I mean, some of my friends were shaving at the age of 11 years old, and even myself now, I only shave once a week. So it's all down to the individual and how you develop differently. But it is very interesting, and we generalize in terms of looking at that and how much they develop. But each one will be slightly different, and they'll develop in a slightly different way. And that also goes down then to the coloration. Some of them will be lighter, some of them darker. And we've seen a couple of those Chitwa males who've got the very dark manes, but there's one of them in amongst those three as well that's quite light. And the other day when we saw the sausage tree pride with that young male that was with them, he also had a very light complexion to him. Now, whether or not he's going to develop later into a darker mane, that will also be interesting to see the development, because they can start off with a lighter color, and then once they are mature, they can mature in their mane as well. It's similar to that of giraffe, who can also start off the males very light in color, or very fawny sort of brown color, and then later, as they get older, they also go darker. So the almost black looking giraffe, you can generally say that they are normally your older individuals, and the same can be said for some of the lions. Alright, so I'm going to sit here for a little bit longer, and I will be here when you come back, but let's go over to Scott, who's over at the hyena den.
Yes, we thought we would pop into what appears to be an old misused hyena den, and we popped in here yesterday afternoon. There was a special request from Philip, who was hoping to get an update on two young hyena that were kind of evidently abandoned at this spot, and slowly their kind of health deteriorated and they started getting thinner and thinner. Nobody knows why they were abandoned or what exactly the cause was for that. And the last that I think was seen was one youngster lurking around here. It seemed kind of in fairly decent health, considering how long it appeared to have been abandoned for. So who knows, maybe it was getting the odd meal from its mother, but a very strange scenario, and it appears like there's no sign of any life here at the moment. I did pop into another hyena den off a road called Gallagher Shortcut, but there was absolutely no sign of any hyena there either. So not too sure where the hyena are hiding these days. Hello, Shama, you'd like to know if hyenas are the only predators that will kind of hide their food in small puddles or ponds. And as far as I'm aware, yes, I haven't seen any other animals or predators storing their food like the hyena cleverly do. And I guess also what's important to remember is that it's often big bones that they are storing there, so they almost maybe possibly stew and fester in the puddles, and then the hyenas can come back and crunch on them later. I don't think they necessarily soften very much, but it's usually not chunks of meat or anything that can be ingested easily, and usually things like bones. Nikki just whispered in my ear, what about crocodiles? I think, okay, they are a good example of another animal that will do just that. So they are another African carnivore and predator. Oh, there's a tiny little blue waxball. Beautiful. Hop, hop, hop. One of my favorite little birds. Now, interestingly, up in East Africa, you get these same birds, but they call them cordon bleus up there, and they've got a tiny little red dot on their cheek. That's the only kind of major difference between our blue waxbill and their blue cordon bleu. And they are very cool with their red spot on their cheeks. But even these guys, which lack the red spot, are also very pretty. I'm hoping to find you some of their nests this summer. They are incredibly clever when it comes to their nesting. They will often nest near vespered wasps or build their nest just above it, so any predator trying to get to their nest has to get past the security of the wasps. And very often when you find their nests, which use blue seed grass, no, is it called blue seed grass? I think it is, but they use a very specific kind of grass, which makes a very beautiful round nest that they pop into, and very often you have those very, very aggressive wasps below. Now, another thing I'd like to show you is just over here. There's a little spider web somewhere over here. As Senzo zooms in, we'll get a better view of it. I think it's here. Yeah, there we go. Well done. And it's covered in little water droplets from this fine misty rain we've been experiencing this morning. And I'm told you were looking at a similar scene with Tristan earlier. You can see the spider right in the middle of the web, waiting patiently for some prey to fly into the web. It's not going to be a good day for hunting until that web dries out, though, because of course the prey can see all those water droplets and are going to avoid the web at all costs. But what a cool scene that is, and it really gives us a great opportunity to be able to enjoy that spiderweb thanks to all those water droplets. Oh, you can see it's not a very windy morning, but as soon as there's a slight breeze, that little web acts like a small sail. Now there's a woodlands kingfisher calling next to us. That's that chick brrr that you can hear behind us. And very pretty birds, the woodlands kingfishers. I don't think we are going to get a view. It's quite high up in a tree. I think it's actually just flown off. It was high up in a tree, and with our roof on, it makes it a little bit difficult. There's a Cape turtle dove, though, that's busy grooming itself up there. I know we would have been able to get at the roof, not too high. Dean, you're wondering if the kind of kill doesn't spoil if hyenas leave it in the water. If it was meat, yes, but like I said, it's usually kind of big bones or portions of the skeleton that will be left in the water. So again, there's not much meat that will rot. It's just the kind of bone marrow within that bone that I guess the hyenas are trying to access at some point in time. It's the coolest thing seeing a hyena stick its head into a puddle and pull out a bone. Tony, you'd like to know if it's common for a hyena to abandon their youngsters, and no, I don't think it is. It's the first case that I've ever heard of it actually happening. It's not to say it doesn't happen more regularly than I've been made aware of. And I think, Tony, the reason why it could possibly happen, my theory as to what may have gone down, is that in hyena clans you will have the alpha female who will lead the clan. The females are dominant over the males in the hyena society, which is very unique in the mammal kingdom. And occasionally beta females are also kind of tolerated to mate and also have an extra set of youngsters, possibly not in the same den site as the alpha female, maybe one nearby. Sometimes they will share. You've got two different litters of cubs growing up fairly often in hyena clans, which means obviously two females would have given birth. But it's not uncommon for the ladies to have differences when it comes to who's in charge and how long is anyone going to be in charge for. So maybe, the alpha female didn't like the new beta female or thought it was time to chase her out, or maybe the beta female overthrew the alpha female and then her cubs were stranded. I think it was some kind of an internal, I would guess, dispute. And, from time to time there are these disputes between the same clan members where they will fight for dominance, which can be quite gruesome and gory. I think possibly the most tricky sighting I've ever had to share with you guys was hyena fighting, and it was just a couple of 100 meters behind us. It was a terrible, terrible scene to witness, actually. The one hyena had its one back foot was completely chewed up to kind of, you could say, above the ankle, and was walking with essentially what looked like a sock filled with jelly, because all of its bones and its back feet were basically chewed up. And every time it tried to take a step, you could imagine it was just ugh. And it had its ears torn up and chewed up. The audio that we were getting was also bone-chilling. Interestingly, there have been a few hyena that have been documented surviving having their back feet chewed. It's kind of their go-to move when attacking other hyena. They try and disable them by attacking their back feet. And this one hyena learned to walk on its two front legs. Just two front legs, with its back legs, well, the stumps elevated off the ground. I mean, how's that for a miraculous recovery without any doctors, painkillers, just sheer determination? I think that hyena was in Botswana somewhere, and I think there have actually been a few kind of documented cases. Very good. Well, we're going to continue perusing about, and hopefully we're going to find something interesting. How much longer have we got to drive? Oh, we still got a few minutes. So very good. While we try and find you something interesting before the end of the safari, we will send you across to Tristan for an update on how he's getting along.
Well, Scotty, we are just coming up towards Sydney's Dam because we thought we'd just come and check up this way while you check hyena den. And there was apparently reports of lots of commotion here last night with lions and buffalo. So I'm just coming to see if any of them are still around. It doesn't look like it. It looks as though it is fairly barren in the plains of Sydney's Dam. Not that we'd call this a big plain, but you never know. Maybe let's just stop and have a little scan around. Sometimes things can be hidden right in front of you, and we know that sometimes it's worth just sitting and having a little look. So apparently there was some sort of commotion. Like I say, apparently lions were chasing buffalo just around the gate area here, so I thought might as well just come and check at the dam itself and have a little look around. See, maybe, you never know, maybe there's a buffalo carcass here, maybe the Angama pride were around, maybe it's the Telematis, who knows. Nobody really can tell me what was going on. I think the gate guys just heard it, so I'm just having a little look around, and a quick scan of the dam wall is always a good idea when at Sydney's Dam. You never know, sometimes things can blend in incredibly well and disappear, and you can't see anything, so it's always worth just scanning along. And then there's a kind of clearing off to the right hand side that they sometimes lie in as well, so you kind of just got to scan and check and see if anything is in the area. So can you go in there somewhere, just straight in where you are, and there's a little light patch somewhere there. I think it's just a branch of some grass. So there it is down at the bottom right. So it's just some leaves that are there. I just thought we'd just check those out. So no, nothing around Sydney's Dam at the moment. Definitely no buffalo, that's for sure. We would have seen them from quite a way away. I think it's the same herd that's being tormented at the moment and being chased around all over the show. Right, where to next, Fergus? Maybe let's go check Vertella access. Maybe the Angama pride is somewhere that side. Right, so I think I'm going to head to Vertella access, just check if nothing came southwards and crossed our way, and I think maybe we might get lucky with something. While I do that, let's go back to Ralph in the Mara meandering.
So like I said, everyone, I'm not going anywhere just yet. I still want to see if this young male has got any inkling of being active this morning. There was a warthog that started to graze towards him, but unfortunately was almost straight downwind, and he was happily grazing, and then all of a sudden got a whiff of this lion and he disappeared very quickly. So the lion also noticed him, but obviously realized that the wind was going the wrong way. He would need to be hunting into the wind. And it's incredible how the animals use their sense of smell to pick up things that quickly and that easily, and very much the primary sense, I believe, of all the animals out in the bush, because it's quite interesting to watch, that you can actually drive up next to a herd of buffalo and they happily continue grazing. Dante, you sent a question. In my opinion, what is the most intelligent carnivore? That's a good question. Thinking about it, I do believe that leopards are extremely intelligent. Now, then we've always got to put it back to the question of intelligence. How do you measure intelligence? And the best theory that I've heard of, which I have mentioned, is the ability for your brain to grow, and with that then has a direct correlation to your learned ability. So, for instance, if you look at an ostrich, his brain is about 95% the size when he hatches to when he's an adult. So there's literally almost only that 5% growth. And if you look at the behavior of an ostrich, he's literally 95% instinctive behavior. There is very little thought process going on there. It's literally run, beat heart, eat grass, run. It's very simple and not too much happening. But if you then move on, say, for the predators or cats like that, I think it's at about almost a 50-50% growth. So when they are born, their brain is 50% the size of when they're an adult. So it grows that half extra. And then when you look at humans, obviously we are the most intelligent, or the animal with the most potential for learning. We're at about, I think it's 10 or 15%. Our brain is the size versus the adult. So we're growing about 85% of our brain. So bringing it back to which predator is the most intelligent, I mean, we'd have to put lions, hunting dogs or painted dogs. We'd have to put hyenas, caracal, all of them. So the big predators, small predators. It's a tough one, because which one would be able to learn? And if I go with that, then I'd have to say leopards, because they are the most adaptable, and you find them in almost any kind of environment. That's physiological as well as mental, but I do think that because of that adaptability and probably because of that intelligence, that's one of the reasons why they are so easily survived in different habitats, and it does have a correlation to their intelligence as well. So I'm going with leopard. That would be my guess, the most intelligent of all the carnivores. But there's probably good arguments for all sorts of other ones, like even caracal. Be interesting to note. Alright, so I'm pretty sure that I have an idea of what the other guides would say, but why don't we go over to Tristan and see what he thinks is the most intelligent carnivore out there.
Well, for me, the most intelligent carnivore, hands down, without a doubt, and this is a difficult thing to say because I love leopards, so I agree with Ralph that they are amazing, but they are not the smartest, for sure, because the smartest of our predators out here, or carnivores out here, is, for me, most definitely the hyenas. They are incredibly intelligent animals. They've been studied extensively and are able to problem solve, work things out. They have a highly complex social structure, which generally is a good sign of a highly intelligent animal. If you think of dolphins and elephants and hyenas and various other baboons, these are all higher level thinking animals. And so for me, hyenas are most certainly the the smartest carnivore that we have out here. It's just also the way that they go about things. They're able to scavenge, they're able to hunt, they're able to form these groups together where they can overpower larger animals. They also are incredibly calculating about how they go about it and how they torment and bait and sort of maneuver other cats or other predators in order to get what they want. And so for me, they are the smartest of them all. I don't think anybody can really compete with them in terms of what they're able to do. And like I say, their problem solving capability is absolutely astounding. And to give you an example of just how clever hyenas can be, we used to have hyenas down at Lion Sands. There was a particular old female, and she hung around the lodge extensively, and she really kind of spent a lot of time in that area, and she eventually worked out how to open doors. And when I say open doors, she figured out that she could use her nose, if the sliding doors were not locked, to push with her nose and open the sliding door like that. She figured out that she could turn the sort of rounded handles, those handles that turn like that. She worked out that she can bite those and turn them, and that will open the door. And she also worked out that if she puts her paws onto the handle, the lever locks, she can lever that and push it open as well. So she was incredibly clever, and she was able to work out 3 different door types in her lifetime and how to open them and get into those areas. It was a bit frightening actually, because it's a really serious risk and threat to anybody's safety, but amazing that a hyena was able to work that out. I mean, that's not something that is naturally taught to them. It's not something that, you know, that they naturally have an instinct on how to do. That is all just learned behavior from, 1, observing, and 2, from actually implementing different trial or sort of techniques in order to get it right. I don't think the cats would ever get to that point where they started to work out how to open doors that turn like that, or even sliding doors. So I think hyenas for me have got to be a very intelligent animal, and my personal go-to. What do you think, Fergus? You think we're right? Quite agree, yes, Fergus. I animals, but I just don't think they have anything on hyenas. Now, Scott, I believe, is going to weigh in on this debate, and I wonder if he's got something slightly different, or if he agrees with myself or Ralph.
I'm torn, because I do agree with Tristan and Ferg in that hyenas are very clever and they do have this problem-solving ability. But on their own, I mean, to compare a social animal with a solitary animal, I feel is kind of unfair in a way, because hyenas do rely on being in a clan. Even though I guess a lone hyena can be clever, I'm feeling like that it's just not fair to compare the two. And I'm also comparing the fact that you do get leopard that survive in quite bizarre places, in and around cities. Like Ralph was saying, they are incredibly adaptable to a very, very wide variety of different environments, as are hyena. But I think it's a bit of a toss-up between the two. It's a tricky one. But I think both Ralph and Tristan did come up with the 2 best candidates for the most intelligent large carnivore in Africa. Yeah, I don't think cheetah and or lion make it onto the podium. I think there's possibly another predator that can slip in there before them. Now, Tristan's not happy that I'm sitting on the fence here. He wants some finality on the voting of who is the cleverest carnivore. And I'm still leaning towards leopard. I mean, if I had to pick one, I'm going to take Ralph's side. So, sorry, Tristan. It's just the way it is. But I can't pinpoint or give an exact reason why. It's just for some reason my body's and my brain is leaning towards the leopard over the hyena. Now, we've been sitting enjoying watching our resident herd of wildebeest. You'll be glad to know that all 4 youngsters are still around, 2 of which we were lucky enough to actually witness them being born. One with Tristan and one with myself, interestingly enough, on a bushwalk. So that's the next 2, and the 4th little youngster over there. Now, there are still a couple of females that appear to be pregnant. I'm not sure which ones they are now. They could all actually be lying down. So hopefully there's going to be a couple more youngsters, and hopefully the predators don't get a hold of them. I remember in all of my previous years here, we would often see them get born and then also see them getting eaten by lions shortly afterwards. Now, Tristan's quite shocked and disappointed in Ralph and my decision. He says there's two of us now that are wrong because hyena are the most intelligent, hands down, according to Trist. I hear where you're coming from, Tristan, but I just feel like the leopards do need a little bit of credit, especially for the fact that they can live in and amongst the worst mammal on the planet, us humans, and go about being undetected for the large majority of the time. And I don't think hyenas would be able to have that kind of skill and prowess and stealth, and that requires intelligence to be able to avoid humans, especially angry humans. Now, Tristan's saying it's got nothing to do with survival, it's got to do with intelligence. But I guess surviving in and amongst us humans requires something to be very intelligent. That's my argument, Tristan. You can see a few young wildebeest with their little brown crowns. They would have been last year's models. And interesting to take note of how their horns slowly develop before widening out. They kind of jut straight out of the head, and now they're slowly beginning to push horizontally outwards, and they still have those little brown patches on their foreheads. Very good. I think we shall be sending you back to Tristan so he can continue telling you about the most intelligent animal on the face of the planet, the hyena. And, oh, 1 second, I think we've just found a lilac-breasted roller nest. Now, I just saw a lilac-breasted roller fly up. If you just go onto my finger there, on that marula tree, a tiny bit up, there's a small cavity. You can see that little cavity where that small branch is coming out. Right in there, I saw a lilac-breasted roller fly in, drop off an insect very quickly, and then fly off. So I'm going to drive up there and see if we can't get a view into that hole. And while we do that, we are going to send you back to Tristan. It's bye from me for this morning, unless, of course, we find any babies in that hole.
Well, we have found ourselves a bird which I'm a little puzzled by because it's a bit bedraggled with the rain. So I'm trying to work out, it looks like it's a Wahlberg's eagle, but just double checking, I suppose it could be. It's a bit kind of drenched, and so the crest is not up, but it does look Wahlberg's like. I suppose lesser spotted eagle could also be, but it just doesn't seem right for a lesser spotted eagle. It seems to have the wrong kind of head. So whatever it is, it's got feathers are not in good shape. There's lots of kind of tatty feathers poking out, and it all looks a little bit kind of sort of rough around the edges, like it's had a tough morning. Now, Scotty, I can't agree with you about this. I want to know if it's something to do with intelligence or we're talking about survival. Because if it's leopard, then survival for me would be maybe leopards are incredibly good at surviving. Hyenas are also known to live around people and survive around people all over the place. So I'm saying that, and it was about intelligence, so there we go. So I still maintain that the hyenas are the most intelligent of the carnivores. I would also know what is intelligence and how do we define it. There we go. Tiara, you say that hyenas are more intelligent in terms of cognitive functions. So I feel like there is scientific proof to back us up. What do you think, Ferg? I think so. Anytime there's somebody that states some sort of scientific proof, we'll take it with both hands and we'll run with it because, well, otherwise we're going to have a situation where, we're going to just argue this point all day long. Oh, there's more leopard tracks there. Interesting. Now, those tracks are not very fresh, but I wonder when they were made because I don't recall anyone calling in those leopard tracks in that area. But, look, I think it's a debatable thing. I think it depends on how we describe intelligence and how it all goes, but for me, like I say, the hyenas just display so many characteristics of being at a higher level than a lot of others that's why I go with them. Anyway, we'll contemplate it and we'll maybe think about it and pick it up again this afternoon because Scotty and I are going to be going home now and trying to get out of this rain, but enjoy the rest of the drive with Ralph, who's in the Mara, and maybe he's got another thought on the hyena-lion debate.
I don't know about because hyenas know how to eat dustbins and open doors, I don't know if that makes them more intelligent than a leopard. It's a bit like, and I know that this will open a can of worms, which is more intelligent, a horse or a cow? And very often the argument is, yes, but you can teach horses to do all sorts of things. But there are some sportsmen I know, very famous ones, that are not very intelligent at all. And so physical ability does not tend to equate to intelligence. I've got a lovely sight here of, well, you can see on the right, that's a lovely big bull hippo, and he's obviously asking for a little bit of subordinate nature. That's probably looks like a female. She's obviously just giving a little bit back to him, saying, yes, I know it's your pool, I'm allowed here, just wind your neck in. And he has been put back in his place, it seems. As you can see, a lovely size head on that bull. As we hear the African fish eagles calling in the background, very iconic. This is a nice big bull that female put him back. So he obviously knows not to press too many buttons. He's got control, but only to a point. So, yeah, back to the horses and the cows. I tend to lean towards a cow being more intelligent than a horse, but a horse being physically more capable of doing tricks and running and being athletic. But, yeah, physical capability definitely doesn't equate to mental intelligence. Please, if you look at a group of buffalo and the intelligent way as to which they form their groupings, and how the youngsters are all kept on the inside, and how those buffalo look after the females and the young. I've seen wild horses in Namibia, and it definitely, for me, there is no organization within them whatsoever, and they just run around quite aimlessly. Now, we've got a little bit of interaction going on with these hippos in front. Always nice to see when they're up to something. But yes, I do think we've opened up a debate here. Wildflower, you're wondering if a hippo would attack my vehicle. I've never been charged or attacked by a hippo in a vehicle. I have had to evade a charging hippo on foot, but that was only because I got between him and the water when he was out grazing, and he charged me on a direct line for the water. But we're also raised here, nicely up on the bank, so we're in absolute safety, and I wouldn't say that these hippos would charge the vehicle. No, I've never seen hippos charging a vehicle, only boats, and it's generally when you're on the water and you get in between them in that safe area. Now, wisteria, you're wondering if I think that some of these animals are used to me or getting used to me. I definitely think that, once again, we go back towards the intelligent animals, such as elephant and rhino and hippo. I'm pretty sure that they do remember whether it's the color of your vehicle or the shape, because a lot of animals are actually colorblind. So it's more to do with the shade of color that you have, that you exhibit, and the shape. And then they would also be smelling us and hearing us. So I think the sight is just in terms of the shape, and then the smell is very, very important, and so that they know exactly what we are. And then hearing, I think, is where they also get a little bit closer into the individual characteristics of different people. And I have had a very close encounter with an elephant on foot, and we spent about 10 minutes having a little chat with each other, and we both came out safely. But after that, because in that encounter I had to shout at him a few times just to put him on the back foot, because we were very close to each other, and it was actually potentially rather dangerous. But after that, whenever he saw me and then heard my voice, he would turn his bum to me and walk away. Whereas everybody else that encountered him in the vehicle, he would be a very curious elephant and come up to the vehicles, and everybody always spoke about how interested he was in going to the vehicles. But ever since that encounter with me, he never came back. With hippos, I haven't actually given them a chance to possibly know me individually. It's because I'm rather scared of hippos. I've spent a lot of time on boats and fishing in areas where there are hippos, and I'm very scared of them. So the first thing you do when you're on a river or on a dam where there are hippos is work out where they are, and you don't go there. That's pretty much how it should be. Now, Scarlett, you're wondering how much time do hippos spend in the water? It all depends on how hot it gets, because the reason that they do go in the water is very much related to thermoregulation, because they're not really able to regulate their temperature as well as all other mammals. So they use the water as an assistance or a help in regulating their temperature. So the amount of time that they spend in the water all depends on how hot or cold it is. The hotter it is, the more time they spend in the water. The colder it is, the more time they would spend out. But generally, when we've got these fluctuating temperatures and the weather being sort of quite normal or baselined, then you would find that the hippos would spend the daytime hours in the water when it's rather hot, and coming out at night to feed. So almost a 50-50 12-hour shift. And then from there it would all depend on how hungry they are and how hot or cold it is, because that's what they need to be thinking about. Right, there's not too much happening here now. We've spent a lovely little bit of time next to the river with these hippos. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to find a little baby with them just yet. Maybe we'll see another pod a little bit further along, so that we can tick that off. I know it was a request for this morning. At least I've been able to find some hippos, and some of them out of water at least. I just need to be careful not to get stuck here. There's quite a few dongas going down towards the river. So I will engage low range here just to get us up nice and easy. 4x4 capabilities of these vehicles is absolutely phenomenal, and if you use them properly, they generally look after you as well. There we go. Alright, so I did see some very big specimen elephants as we came in here, so we might go back and see them. Now, any animal, you've commented that you always thought that the monkeys were the most intelligent. Well, monkeys are very intelligent, but I think we were talking about predators. So which one, or carnivores, which carnivore was the most intelligent, or is the most intelligent? And I'm still disagreeing with Tristan. I do have a very big soft spot for hyenas because of their indestructible nature, and we laugh about them every day because if you're just put yourself in the shoes of or the paws of a hyena. I mean, just imagine, from the day you are born, you're looking to the person next to you, or the hyena next to you, thinking, show me a weakness, show me a weakness. Because if you show any kind of weakness, you get eaten, even by your brother, or your mother, for that. If you show any weakness, your mother might eat you. Let that sink in. So it's incredible. I've never seen an injured hyena for a week. You see it on one day, and the next day it's gone. So they do not let weakness continue in any way or form. If you've got a limp, you're probably going to die. So, yeah, it's it's really interesting. Hyenas are crazy. And if you leave your dustbin outside, you'll be lucky to find it within a 5-kilometer radius and in one piece. We once were camping in Cozy Bay in the northern parts of Zimbabwe, right on the banks of the Zambezi River, and we had a combi, a VW combi, and in the back we had a big freezer with all our meat in it and all the food, and because we were on about a 2-month holiday, and there were various vehicles and friends with us as well, but it's quite raised, and it was very hot, and so we left the boot open with the freezer in there with our meat and everything, because it was very raised and very hot. We wanted to give it some air that it could work properly. Anyway, in the middle of the night we heard a crash bang and a lot of chaos in the camp, but we were all too scared to go out, and in the morning we tracked this group of hyenas that had dragged our freezer out the back of the car, literally 2 kilometers along the riverbank, and the freezer was locked closed. They had bitten the lid off its hinges. There was not a single thing left inside that freezer, and they had also eaten half of the freezer. They're another animal altogether. It's almost like they have been beamed down from Mars, because they're incredible. As we see in front here, one of the most intelligent animals, I would say, with them and the dolphins, a group of elephants. Now, Jacqueline, you're wondering and asking the question, what is the difference between a donga and I think you said a lager? Now, a donga, if we think of a little area that gets eroded, so when I was saying a donga, that was that areas of erosion. Now, if Archie, just for the sakes of this answer, Archie, if you can just pan off to the left and just have a look at there where that bare soil is, over there, you can see the beginnings of a donga at the base of that tree. We're going right in there. That erosion there, as it cuts into the soil and makes a sort of a V as it comes down, that's the beginnings of a donga. And that's what I was talking about. I didn't want to get stuck in those very big dongas that were next to the river. It's basically an eroded area of soil, but quite particular in the way that it starts to form and then the shape that it is. So an English direct word, I'm going to be thinking of it now while we pan across and go over to the elephants again. An English word for a donga. I think it is a Zulu word, but in South Africa and Southern Africa there are a few words that I know exactly what they mean, but for a direct translation, sometimes quite difficult. So a lager, if I wanted to compare that with a lager is something that, for instance, the voortrekkers or the Afrikaans people, when they were moving up through Africa, they had their ox wagons, and they would form a lager, which is almost like a horseshoe shape sort of formation, and it would normally be when they were defending themselves as they were moving, and then when they stayed overnight, their lager was enclosed all the way at the back, and they would put their ox wagons around the outskirts, and then they would do all their camp business along the inside. So a lager basically being a protected structure, normally in a horseshoe shape or a circle, and that's a lager. So that's the difference between a donga and a lager. Not very similar in any way at all. But yes, we do use lots of different slang words, so please, if I sometimes don't even notice that I've used one and you don't understand, please send your comments. Yes, I'm being told from Nikki and FC that it's a lager. I'm not quite sure what that is. I don't know what a lager is. But in the meantime, let's start up and see what else we can find along this little road here. We are now once again on the edge of the marsh. And once I leave this road and I start heading towards these elephant, it's going to be 4x4 country once more, and that's when I need to sometimes put my foot down and put the differential lock in and keep going. Those elephants are loving it in the wet marshy zone. So I don't want to be driving for the rest of the show. I'm going to try and get us to a nice little spot where we can watch some animals and have a chat. It's been a lovely morning so far. Don't know about you, but I've really enjoyed myself. We were lucky to find that one young male lion, but as they do, once it starts getting hot, they generally start to lay up and not do too much. It looks very clear today. It was nice and cool, but I do think that it's going to warm up towards this afternoon. We're probably going to get quite hot in the early stages of the afternoon drive. I think I'm going to stop just over here for a little while because we've got so many elephants that it would be a shame to miss. Now, Ashlyn, you're wondering what would happen to an elephant if he got separated from the herd. Well, if it's a youngster or an adult or whatever, they generally will communicate either through that subsonic rumbling, or they can trumpet as well. But generally that very deep rumble would be the way that they would communicate, and they generally then are able to find the herd. You often see some young males that lag behind the group, and all of a sudden they hear the bit of communication from the herd or from the matriarch, and then you see them running to catch up. So it's definitely, if they get separated, it's normally the young males who go off playing, and they're the ones that then have to catch up once they get told off by mom. What a lovely setting that is out in the Mara Triangle. We're right up near to the Mara River. As you saw, we've just left that, and that was a little corner that Archie hasn't been to, and it's the first time I've been there, so I've driven a couple of new little roads. I'm I'm just finishing up on the last few little corners that I haven't been, and then next week we're going to be heading across the river, and I'd like to be learning that area and exploring a little bit more, and hopefully be able to find lots of cheetah. I've spoken to Jamie and Brent and Taylor, and everybody's saying that side is very good for finding those fast and daylight active cats. Now, Ignacio, you're wondering if there's only one big male within a pack of elephants. Ignacio, we don't say that a group of elephants is a pack, because that's more to do with wild dogs and wolves and more your canines. With elephants, we say they're part of a herd, and in a herd of elephants, you generally find the females and the youngsters, and it's actually a matriarch that controls the group or the breeding herd. So it's a female that's in charge, and then you will get big elephant bulls, or the males, that they are normally solitary, and they will join the breeding herds only for mating, but they will then have their own particular dominance as well. And normally with elephants, it's generally the bigger one is the stronger one, is the dominant one, but it can come down to some sparring or battles that do show themselves out between big bull elephants, and they can even lead to them killing each other. So especially when it is a very evenly matched two big bull elephants, and that will then generally be, if they're both coming into must at the same time and there is a group of females that are receptive or willing to mate, then the males might fight over that group or that specific females. Very interesting to watch elephants in their social structure and the way that they communicate. They are very tactile, gregarious. It's fascinating, I find, and it's different everywhere you go with elephants. Now, Clevel, you're asking the question, how many babies would female elephants have in a herd? Well, Clevel, it takes nearly 2 years for a baby to develop inside an elephant's womb. So it's 22 months. So it's nearly 2 years before the baby is actually born. And then it takes at least another 3 years after that, at least, for her to then be able to have another baby or be receptive for another baby. So we're talking about 5 years turnaround for them to have another baby, but elephants can increase their population rather quickly, and it has been shown in Botswana and the areas where they've stopped poaching, including the parts of the Kruger National Park, not poaching, the culling or controlling of numbers, that the numbers of elephant expands quite substantially, and it's exponential as well. So this year we might have an extra 50 elephants, and in 3 years' time we're going to have an extra 200 elephants. So it does expand. It's almost like with interest, and like if you had to put your money in the bank, and this year you get 10% interest, but next year you get 10% on your 10%. So think of it that way, and I don't know if that makes sense or not, but they can exponentially grow rather fast. And it's a problem with elephants, especially in areas or private areas or enclosed areas. Now, pachyderm, you're asking the question, what are the little birds flying around them? Are they swallows? Yes, there are a number of swallows. There's also martins that are flying around, and they do the same next to the vehicle as well, because it's very similar to those white birds that are on the ground, except they're walking, waiting for the insects to be bumped up. The swallows and the martins, they're flying around, catching the insects that the elephants bump out from underneath their feet. So it's quite interesting to watch. And it's one of those symbiotic relationships once again, because it's a relationship between two organisms. However, in this particular instance, I would say that it's commensalistic, which means that one of the organisms benefits, the other one doesn't benefit or is not harmed. And in this case, I think the swallows and the martins are benefiting from the presence of the elephant, but the elephant not receiving any form of gain or loss from the presence of the swallows and the martins. Whereas I think it's slightly different with the egrets, because the egrets would inform them of any kind of predator. They would all fly up. So I think that the elephants do gain from having the egrets around, whereas with the martins, I don't think there's a massive gain whatsoever. So quite interesting, hey? There's always these interactions between different species and different organisms, and there's always this echo and symbiotic bonding between them. You know, it's for instance, you look at a tree with a nest in the tree, it doesn't get harmed by a bird nesting in it, but the bird gaining and would almost not be able to survive without that tree. So, and you could look at elephants a little bit closer as well, because they've probably got that fungus which is in their stomach assisting with the digestion is probably elephant specific. Without the elephant, the fungus would probably be extinct, and the other way around as well. So without one of the species being there, we wouldn't have the other. And that goes through with termites as well. We've spoken about that, termites and their fungus gardens. Then we look at fig trees and the fig wasps. So it's so fascinating, and we can get into all sorts of these stories, which we're going to do again on the afternoon. And I'd like to thank Tristan and Scott up in South Africa, and Nikki in the FC, and Faith and Ryan on our side here in the Mara. And most of all, thank you to all of you, the viewers. Please continue to send your questions and your comments. And folks, we look forward to seeing you again this afternoon. Thanks very much, and have a nice day. Goodbye.